Billy Nardozzi do? What would Billy Nardozzi do? Please help me welcome Tiffany Chianti.
I write poetry because in this crazy, corrupt, complicated, competitive world, I want people to know that there's still some innocence. Billy Nardozzi has been believing this for 31 years. He's been writing poetry and publishing it, at first monthly, but then eventually weekly in a Pittsburgh newspaper at his own cost of $100 per article. Each poem was accompanied by his photo with his trademark mullet and his home telephone number at the bottom. People would call to say how touched they are, or they might simply call to say, please cut your hair, it's time. Those in Pittsburgh that either love him for his simplicity, his innocence, his reliability, or they criticize him for those exact same reasons. Around town you might see some bumper stickers saying, what would Billy Nardozzi do? People wear bracelets. There's memorabilia all over Pittsburgh. But despite all of this attention, Billy is a very, very humble, unassuming man. His job during the day is to bottle liquor at a packaging plant. He married his high school sweetheart and he has 3 grown children. In the 80s, he and his brother started a cover rock band, and that's where he grew and kept his trademark mullet. His wife, Donna, is sometimes annoyed by his poetic obsession, but she hears all the time from his ravenous fans. One time she tried to talk him into cutting his hair for the newspaper articles, and he said back to her after laughing, well, what did he say? Let me check real quick. Like Samson's hair that gave him strength, my hair gives me confidence. Tonight I've made a selection of brief poems by Billy Nardozzi, beginning with What is a Mullet? It's a mop of hair that's seen on a guy, and the back is real long and the top is real high. And the mid part just hangs by the top of the ear, and the bangs on the forehead just kind of lay there. And it's not hard to comb, just shake and it lays, but be careful of the sun's damaging rays. For it can make it go limp, or it could make it go flat, and you'll look like a fool, and that is that. And just one more thing about the infamous mullet, it can seriously put a dent in your wallet. For the styling and trimming and maintaining of the hair, and the cost of shampoo can really be a bear. Next I'll share, If I Met Jesus. The first thing I do is to shake his hand and thank him for this beautiful land. And then I would offer him a glass of wine and ask him if he would like to dine. And then I'd cook up my famous spaghetti, and then celebrate his arrival with a slew of confetti. And then I'd bring out the pie of the day, and then ask him if he would like to stay. And then I'd invite him to Sunday church service, knowing that I would be oh so nervous. And then I would treat him to breakfast or brunch and maybe go to McDonald's for some afternoon lunch. And then he would ascend right into heaven before that I could even count to 7. And then I would call him on the phone and thank him so much for visiting my home. Next we have me and Wyatt Earp. I imagined I went back in time and met up with Wyatt Earp, and we exchanged a couple of words, but here is just a blurb. He stood there and stared at my hair, And I stood there and stared at his gun. And then he came right out and said, "What are you doing here, son?" I said, "I've come to write a story about the gunfight at the OK Corral. And I have traveled all the way from Pittsburgh to get this story as well." He said, "Son, I appreciate your time, but I've got better things to do right here." And then he boldly proceeded to ask me, "Why do you even care?" I said, "Wyatt, I'll tell you in truth, I need a story to take back home. And after I've gotten all the facts, I'm going to convert it into a poem." He stepped back and paused for a moment, and then he looked me straight in the eye. And he said, "I'll make a deal with you, son. If you get a haircut, I'll tell you why." It was then that I saddled my horse and rode away as fast as I could, because he whipped out a pair of scissors, just like I knew he would. The next selection is called Texting. How appropriate. They text when they rise, and they text when they sleep, and they text while they're dreaming and counting sheep. And they text when they eat, and they text when they don't. And they text in church and say that they won't. And they text in the rain, and they text in the snow, and they text when it's even 40 below. And they text at school, and they text on the side, and they text while crossing the Great Divide. And they text at the doctors, and they text at the dentist, and they text while watching TV or tennis. And they text at their job, and they text while driving, and they text to tell you when they're arriving. And they text on a bus, and they text on a plane, and it's about to drive me half insane. Fellow Toastmasters, I encourage you to give Billy a call after the meeting. His phone number is right here for you to copy down. And let him know what you think of his poetry tonight.
All right.